Hey there, Dave here. Do you ever think about how terrible the interest rates are at your bank? Maybe that's just me, and I don't even have a savings account. The interest rates at the big four banks are essentially zero. Well, between 0.01 and 0.04%. Just how little is that? Let's say you have $1,000 and you put it into the bank with a 0.04% interest rate. You make that deposit on January 1st, and by December 31st, you will have made a whopping 40 cents. No thank you. I would literally rather keep my money in a shoebox under my bed than make 3 cents per month. I know what you're thinking. What about those high interest savings accounts? 1.6%, 1.7%, 1.78%, 1.8%? Need I go on? All of these banks are competing for your cash and paying these amazing interest rates to get you to open an account. Think about that for a second. Banks know what they're doing. They have to make money. There has to be a way to beat them at their own game, and that is what today's video is all about. Before we go any further, I just have one question for you. Do you like making money? If so, smash the like button and leave me a quick comment, because doing those things will let YouTube know that this video is worth watching, and then maybe, just maybe, they will show it to more people. And I would really appreciate that. If you're new here, my name's Dave Hanson. I'm basically a financial minimalist, but one who likes to find ways to maximize how my money works for me with as little time or effort as possible. I basically retired in my 30s, and now I focus full-time on investing both in the stock market and in private companies. I have another YouTube channel with my friends called Dumb Money, and that's what that's all about. I love making these videos. It's a fun way to help teach people ways of thinking, things that worked well for me, and if that sounds interesting, I'd love to have you come back for every single video. Subscribing and turning on those notifications is a great way to do that. It's my free gift to you. This actually all came up in the comments from my last video. You might want to watch that. In that video, I talked about the 5 credit cards that I use for cashback and the 2 cards that I actually carry in my wallet. Do I have my wallet? I do. They both happen to be from Bank of America. The Cash Rewards card gets me 5.25% cash back at restaurants, and this one, the Premium Rewards card, gets me 3.5% back on travel and 2.625% back on everything else. It's a super simple system, red for restaurants, gray for everything else, unless it's Amazon, Uber, or Apple, which I have those 3 cards saved as the defaults in my account. There, you actually don't have to watch the video now, but you might want to watch it anyway, because I do go into an alternate set of cards, because to qualify for this highest level of cash back on these cards, you have to qualify based on your account balance at Bank of America. You essentially need a 3-month average balance of $100,000 to get those highest levels of cash back on these credit cards, which commenters brought up a very valid concern about the insanely low interest rates that Bank of America pays. Like I said, I do not have a savings account with Bank of America, or a savings account at all. I personally qualify because I have money flowing through my checking account. I'm involved in a bunch of different businesses that I invest in, and I actually get nervous when my checking account is below $100,000. Sometimes I do write checks for more than that, and my credit card spending is fairly high and everything is set to auto pay. But that's just me. I realize I'm not normal. But if I didn't have that kind of money flowing through my checking account, would I deposit $100,000 just to earn more cash back from my credit cards? No freaking way. Trust me, your cashback credit cards are not going to make up for the opportunity cost of parking $100K at a Bank of America savings account, so don't do it. Clearly, I'm not sponsored by Bank of America or any of these banks. Some of you in the comments also had concerns about fees for their brokerage accounts, which, by the way, brokerage accounts do also count towards the preferred rewards qualification tiers to get you the higher rates on your cash back. I also do not have a brokerage account with them, but I do know that they have dropped their fees to $0 for online trading, just like every other online broker out there. We can thank Robinhood for that, but Merrill Edge does not have any fees or minimums on any of their online trading accounts, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, whatever. What I've been telling people in the comments is that if you have investments at a brokerage account somewhere, whatever you're invested in is also probably available in a Merrill Edge account. And you don't have to sell your stocks and pay taxes on the gains. Brokerages can simply move investments from one place to another. It might be worth looking into, especially if you're not loyal to whatever brokerage you're using for whatever reason. And it looks like Merrill wants to give you $600 for opening accounts, so no affiliate link for me or anything, just something to consider. Anyway, we're not talking about picking stocks. We're looking for a place to put our money when we're not invested in the stock market. Something that can beat the bank's interest rates, but that is still very much like cash. Most banks or brokerages have a few options. You could put your money in a money market fund, but those interest rates aren't much better than a savings account. Mine with Schwab is technically a purchased money fund, and it's only yielding 1.48% right now, so that's worse than those high interest banks. You could also put put your money in bonds or CDs or treasury bills, all of which sound super confusing and complicated and very old-timey.
People buying and selling shares in the companies to the American Stock Exchange.
Nobody watching YouTube probably even knows what ticker tape is. I'm not a bonds trader, and figuring out treasury bills makes my head hurt. And CDs tie your money up. I want something that is as accessible as keeping cash in that shoebox under my bed, or at least as easy as getting it out of a savings account. And preferably something that I could actually trade on Robinhood, which Robinhood, by the way, does not have access to a bunch of things like preferred stocks, tracking stocks, mutual funds, bonds, fixed income trading, foreign exchanges. It's basically just US equities and ETFs, and options, and crypto. Maybe I'll do a video sometime about what you can and can't do on Robinhood. But until then, I can't even get a cash management account with Robinhood. There's still 756,000 people in line in front of me. But even someday when Robinhood finally grants me the elusive cash management account for that luxurious 1.8% interest rate, I'm not going to use it. Anyway, since I don't have a savings account, what do I have? I have a brokerage account, and I use it for investing, but I also use it essentially as a savings account for my uninvested cash. I call it cash, but it's not really. It's actually an investment at the very lowest end of the risk scale, but an investment that beats all of those high-interest savings accounts that I've seen. Sound interesting? This seems like a great time for a disclaimer. I am just a guy on the internet. I am not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. These are things that I do, but it's clearly not suitable for everyone. I'm just trying to give you new ways of thinking about money, and you should always do your own research and think for yourself. Thank you. Disclosure complete. Anyway, the banks want you to sign up for these accounts because they make money for the bank. Let's think like a bank. How do they decide what the interest rate should be? Essentially, banks just decide what interest they want to pay. They pay you as much as they need to try to attract and retain customers, but they keep those rates as low as possible because they like being profitable. The big four banks don't have to try as hard, so they don't. And the newcomers are all in a race to acquire new customers, so they're going to pay you more. But they're always going to pay you less than what they're making by using your money. I think that's an overarching theme in my financial life. If someone wants me to do something, they're probably making money from me, and there's probably a better way to just do it myself. So what are the banks doing with your cash? They're investing it. More specifically, they're loaning your money out and getting paid a higher interest rate than what they're paying you. That makes sense, right? So let's say Robinhood is going to pay you 1.8%. And actually Robinhood is doing this through partner banks that are actually holding the money for you, and those banks are now the ones that are going to be loaning your money out to other people, and they're definitely getting more than the 1.8% from whoever is borrowing it. You know, like people who are paying 25% interest because they don't pay off their credit cards every month. Always pay your credit card balance every month, never pay credit card interest. Anyway, so could you just loan your cash directly and skip the bank? Well, yes, if you trust the person you're loaning it to, but even if you know that they're going to pay you back plus interest, you still lose liquidity, meaning you can't just use that cash until they pay you back, which is basically how bonds work. The bond market is basically that, but instead of lending to a person, you're loaning your money to a corporation or often the government. It's kind of cool that you're loaning the government money, I guess.
You're going to have to pay for it in some other way, it seems to me.
In exchange for your money, they're going to give you predetermined payments along the way.
Nothing in life is free.
That's where the term fixed income comes from. And then they're going to pay you back the original amount, the principal, at a specific predetermined date, maturity. And that is how bonds work. It's usually a $1,000 minimum. You get those fixed income payments, usually twice a year. The principal gets paid back at maturity. You want some more confusing terms? They call the interest rate the coupon. You buy a bond at a discount or at a premium. That is literally more than I have ever needed to know about bonds. Because if I wanted to be a bonds trader, I would have been a bonds trader. So why am I talking about them? Because like most things, there is an easier way. It's something you may have never heard of or thought much about. It's a bond ETF. So quickly, what is an ETF? It stands for Exchange Traded Fund, and it's one of my favorite things in the world. They trade like stocks in that you can get in and out whenever you want. during market hours. They're diversified like a mutual fund. They often just copy a major index automatically. It's kind of like a robot stockbroker. And usually, because you don't have to pay robots very much, the expenses are way lower, and often they have a better track record than a human money manager. You may have thought that they only track indexes like the S&P 500, but did you realize there are also a ton of ETFs out there based on bonds? A lot of them have holdings in ultra short duration, high quality bonds, very similar to what the bank would be doing with your money. But because they trade like stocks, you don't have to know how to be a bond trader. It is important to know that unlike a savings account, there is no FDIC protection guaranteeing that you won't lose money. These are investments just like any other investment. They can make or lose money. But if you go with the lowest risk type of bond ETF and you find an ETF that is full of US Treasury securities, the underlying assets of the ETF are actually backed by the government. And that is where a screening tool comes in handy. Your online broker probably has one. I use Schwab and I like theirs. I've also used E-Trade and TD Ameritrade. They're all slightly different variations on the same idea. For simplicity, I'm going to use a free one that anyone has access to. This one is from Seeking Alpha. It's way more simplified than what I've used on brokerage accounts, but it gets the job done. So this one is tracking 2,371 different ETFs. Under asset class, we're interested in fixed income, and then US government, and then treasuries short duration. And to really just limit this list down to the absolute biggest funds, I'm going to be looking at the ones that are worth over $10 billion. And there are only two, so hopefully one of these is good. We click over to yields, and you see that 2.09 and 2.15, both of those beat all of these high interest savings accounts. Let's look at this one that's yielding 2.15% SHV. At first glance, that chart looks completely volatile, but you have to remember that it is trading within a range of 110.3 to 110.7. Let's put that in perspective. If we pull up the larger chart and let's look at 5 years. And again, that looks like it's all over the map. It pays its dividend every single month, and so naturally it ramps up a little bit leading into the dividend and then goes down after the dividend has been paid because you're not going to get paid for another month. And that is the fluctuation. But to prove that, let's overlay an S&P 500. And when you do that, it basically levels this out to a flat line, and then the S&P is going up, up, up. It's trading within a 40-cent range, which is good. We're not trying to get appreciation from the underlying price of the ETF. We're just trying to collect those dividends. We click on holdings, and all of these top 10 are US Treasury notes. Perfect. But that's just the top 10. Let's Google, and on their actual website, the portfolio, if we look at detailed holdings and analytics, oh look, they give you a spreadsheet. And all of the holdings, it's basically what we're looking for, US Treasury notes. Let's go back over to Seeking Alpha, see what this ETF is all about. The fund is seeking to replicate the performance of the ICE US Treasury Short Bond Index. Last criteria, can we trade this on Robinhood? So we'll search for SHV, and there it is. It's available for $110, and I could buy it right now. Should I? 1 million shares. Just kidding. I don't have any money in my Robinhood account, but it is available, and Robinhood's showing the same dividend yield of 2.15%. And unfortunately, Robinhood doesn't have an ETF screener, but that wasn't too hard to use, was it? That's just an example. I haven't really looked into this any more than what we've just gone through, but it is an example of how you can easily find an investment on the very low end of the risk scale that returns better yields than the supposed high interest savings account. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of life. So if you've made it this far and you're still awake, I think that I have really earned that thumbs up today. I mean, somehow I kept this entertaining enough to keep you watching a video about how bonds work and ETFs. I mean, I had this whole thing planned about how distribution yield curves are calculated, and I spared you from that. So please, a thumbs up for YouTube. And of course, I'm happy to keep talking about this. I'll do so in the comments. So please do comment. And until we meet again, I thank you so much for watching. My name's Dave Hanson.